area. Now, Clemson, I believe their over-under win total, I think I saw it somewhere at 9.5. It's now at 8.5. The portal for them is always going to be a talking point when we talk about Clemson and what they're going to accomplish. Like, let's just put the pause button on the portal for right now and talking about that, as much as maybe it's relevant or irrelevant. Like, it doesn't really matter when you talk about the college football games being played. Clemson fans, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. We want y'all a part of this as we jump headfirst into the best sport on the face of the planet. We want y'all a part of this college football sicko community. So we appreciate y'all in advance for rocking with us. Kind of a tired talking point here with Clemson. Outside of the portal, like the defense, going to be really good. Like Peter Woods is an absolute force inside for them. He gets another year under his belt out there in that defense. Barrett Carter is a Super Saiyan running around out there playing linebacker for them at Clemson. He's all over the field. Like, you want to watch a fun highlight tape, turn on number 0. The offense is really the question mark. As Jesse Simonton said, can Clemson run the Garrett Riley offense? Can we get the driver out a little bit and stop doing the putt-putt offense? Because I think Garrett Riley, what we've seen him do when he's actually running the show himself, when it's his offense, they will manufacture explosives. And what I mean by that is a lot of eye candy pre-snap, a lot of motions, a lot of different window dressing to get you misaligned to where we may not have a guy that runs 4.3, though Clemson, I believe, does have a guy or two like that now in the program. But even if we don't, like we can get a 4.5 guy open. Like we can scheme guys open. That was one of the reasons why TCU was as successful as they were offensively. With that being said, I think they do have more juice at wide receiver than they've had in years past. Tyler Brown, Antonio Williams, both guys that I believe are pretty electric playmakers for them. Antonio Williams wasn't really ever healthy throughout the course of last season, much to the disappointment of everyone out there in Clemson, South Carolina. Tyler Brown played really well in relief of him. You got 2 stud freshmen, though, that I think will have to factor in for you some way, somehow, and that's Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. Bryant Wesco, if you watched the Clemson spring game, had himself a nice day, enough to get you fired up for what he's going to be when he starts playing in the fall. TJ Moore, if you watched his All-American game as a high schooler, pretty much did whatever he wanted. And that wasn't against like some scrub high school from wherever. Like, that was an All-American game with other dudes that are going to go play elite college football up there with him. And he dominated. So TJ Moore is a guy I'd be excited about and a name to know if I'm a Clemson fan. So let's go game by game here. The game in Atlanta against Georgia, we've been pretty transparent about. I think Clemson loses that game. I think Georgia's roster is the best in America, and I think they'll be a force this year. That's not saying anything of Clemson. That just, I think, says more about Georgia and where they're at right now. Now, you play App State. What we said about Oregon and them playing Boise State is the same thing I'll say about App State. I think App State's going to contend for a college football playoff spot as a G5 team. We have them actually as our G5 team making the college football playoff. So that's not a walk in the park now. However, I do think you win that football game. You get a bye week before NC State. Now, NC State and Dave Doeren, a bit of a wild card to me. You don't always know what to make of that roster because it doesn't actually seem to matter year in and year out. And it's not to say anything of like, well, it doesn't matter what players Dave Doeren has. It does, but I think the players that Dave Doeren gets and develops and the way they coach it up over there, like, they are a cockroach kind of outfit. And I mean that in an affectionate way, in the sense that, like, they are hard to kill. You can stomp on them. You can think you have the better roster. You can game plan, whatever. Like, they are just a tough out every single time. And so with Grayson McCall now playing quarterback out there for Robert and I think that'll be closer to the version of what they want at quarterback that Brendan Armstrong wasn't last year. As good as the Clemson defense is, I think that the NC State defense will be able to handle Clemson's offense, and I think that the NC State offense will be a little bit improved from a year ago with Grayson McCall. So I actually think you drop that game. You beat Stanford in an ACC game, which is going to be bizarre, but you beat Stanford at Florida State for what I have been calling the DJU Bowl. I think that Florida State will win that football game. I just think that it'll be personal for DJU. I don't think he's a guy to make it personal, but I just think there's going to be a lot of energy going into that week. I think Mike Norvell will scheme it up. And if you're a Clemson fan, you're saying, JD, you're picking us to lose 3 games right now? Like, what is going on? Like, as a Clemson fan, you're like, we've seen what DJU is, brother. Like, we got this. That might be the case right now. I'm going to lean that DJU has improved. I'm going to lean that the Florida State offense will be very physical up front, and that defense can be very good as well. So we'll see what happens there, but I'll pick Florida State to win that game. At Wake Forest, win that game. You beat Virginia. You beat Louisville. Now at Va Tech, November 9th. That's going to be a good one. That's going to be a very good one because I think Virginia Tech's actually going to be really good this year. I think it's a dogfight. However, I think you get a big win in Blacksburg. You get a win at Pitt. You beat the Citadel, and you beat South Carolina. So you finish with a record of 9-3. And a lot of people are going to be like, man, 9-3? If that ends up being the case, let's just live in that world for a second. Everyone is going to go back to the same talking points. And we may actually go to the same talking points as well. The question will be, well, what if they went to the portal? Could they have beaten a NC State? Could they have beaten a Florida State? Whatever it ends up looking like. I think what's important to note here is, like, Clemson's got Georgia the first game of the year. If Clemson scheduled Yale the first game of the year, they're 10-2. And we're talking about them probably being a college football playoff team, from my estimation, or at least being in that conversation. And I think 9-3 also, and I don't want to, like, give morale points for going 9-3 because at Clemson they expect a lot more than that. But, like, I think it's important to note here, they expect a lot more than that. Why? Because they've been to the mountaintop a couple of times. Because they've made that 4-team playoff. They were consistently making the 4-team playoff. And so to miss the 12-team playoff, like, what the heck is going on? They have earned those expectations. 9-3 is nothing to scoff at, especially when your losses are to what I believe will be 2, potentially 3 ranked teams, depending on what NC State does when they play them. They could finish a lot higher than this. They could be a 10-2, 11-1 team. To me, I am in the need to see it to believe it camp for Cade Klubnik. Not down on Cade Klubnik. I don't even think it's necessarily all his fault. You need to turn the controls over to Garrett Riley, let him cook, get these young wide receivers up and rolling, and empower Cade Klubnik to live up to his billing as a recruit. That's a lot of ifs. That's a lot of ifs. So it's funny, I'm talking about them being 9-3 like we're at somebody's funeral. I promise you, Clemson's going to be a tough out every single week. That's the way I feel about their schedule this year. I think they're a 9-3 football team. But if the offense takes the next step, if they do all those things that I just mentioned, which was a fair amount, which is why we have them what we have them, if they check all those boxes, like, we'll see what Clemson is. But regardless, let me know what you think Clemson's going in 2024 and to give me your final win-loss prediction for the Tigers. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.